Hey everyone, and welcome to today's DeFi Drop, which features Alessio Zazzarini, founder of HyperNest. HyperNest is a specialized DeFi accelerator DAO supporting and growing the next wave of DeFi builders. Welcome, Alessio. It's great to have you on.
Thanks, Edward. It's a great pleasure to participate in your podcast today.
Thank you very much. And actually, it's great to actually see you again. We met a while ago in Lisbon, unaware that our paths would cross again and that this podcast would actually happen. And in fact, we only just made the connection now after finding one of those selfies you take together at conferences to remind ourselves who we've met.
We are, in the end of the day, a small pond of guys. Sooner or later, we met, complex world. So it's always nice to reconnect.
Exactly. So, look, let's crack on. Dive into the details.
Uh-huh.
I'd love to know a bit more about HyperNest in a bit, but let's get a bit of background about yourself, how you got into
Mm-hmm.
Web3 and what led you to create HyperNest.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I got into Web3 or Web3 got into me, right? So it's difficult to understand the starting point of that. On a very high level, I was just an investor. So we were just picking stocks. Me and my buddies were looking to the ETF, synthetic versus not synthetic, the more traditional analysis versus charting. That it's a little bit, cartography and for adult male. And I've been stumbling in an article about Ethereum. I was like, wait 1 second. Does Ethereum look cool? It's interesting, provides some incredible innovation that we didn't have before in Bitcoin. And now I want to know more about it. So everything started in understanding more about Ethereum, and all of a sudden I was into the ICO craziness. I was running one of the biggest meetup in Germany, in particular in Dusseldorf, where we were getting together any type of Web3 lovers. So it was not called Web3 at that point, or crypto lovers. We had miners, we had traders, we had stakers, but not many, because at that point there was not so much to stake. There were, ICO maxi, and we were getting together a few times a month, a couple of times per month, discussing about what was new. I remember that we were super bullish on Neo, and Neo was the Ethereum killer at that point. Didn't end up that well, but it was a great experience. And apart from that, I entered into mining, mostly Litecoin and Dash, to support several type of startups, scale ups. And obviously I entered in the magical world of DeFi when there was no DeFi, when we were trading in Ethereum Delta. It was so good when someone was using 85 Ethereum as gas. It was definitely not defined. It was not used to. It was not an exchange. It was an attempt, right? And from that moment on, I would say that I was diving deeper into the rabbit hole. That I continue to be part of this, what I consider more a movement than anything else. So that's my entering in Web3.
Amazing. Proper OG from back in the day. HyperNest is a full service program that covers everything from fundraising and tokenomics to security,
Yeah.
liquidity, and legal. In practice, what does that end-to-end support actually look like for a startup inside the program? So let's get to the crux of what you offer for
Yeah.
startups.
Yeah. Well, let's say that HyperNest as an accelerator, there is much more to say because we are not only an accelerator right now, but let's say HyperNest as an accelerator practically works as an accelerator, a good one, right? Because we have an use and abuse of this word, but usually what a great accelerator provides, so if you look at, I don't know, the classical one, like YC, Techstar, and so on and so forth, they provide at the beginning capital, right? Ideally at the beginning of the accelerator, not later, because theoretically you should have enough money to spend during the process to accelerate. your development or your growth. Second, you have an internal team then support you. This internal team is the one that set with you the KPI, help you to define the strategy, basically stay hand to hand with you every single day that you are in the accelerator and beyond, because we never use this accelerator 3 months, 6 months as a real window, to be honest with you. The third things that you really need is expert, because you might have an internal team that it's very knowledgeable, and maybe you want to discuss about specifically, the complexity, the intricacy of the security of Liquidity V2, right? And if you want to do that, well, I'm not be the best person. I mean, I have an understanding of it, but definitely not the best person myself, and neither the others. But Alex, that is the CEO of GetRecon, is definitely the person you want to talk to. Or if you are looking into any specific part of your smart contract EVM based, there is we have on board consensus diligence. Now I'm entering in the security craziness, but it can be also something related to obviously your token economy, your go-to-market strategy, or how carbon works. Mark Richardson has been for a very, very long time one of the most loved, let's say, mentors and supporters. And when we had advanced team working on a similar technology, working with Mark Richardson, that was, and I think he's still the head of product of Bancor and Carbon, it was, extremely useful. So essentially what you provide is a core of knowledge of strategists, including me, that can basically hold your hand during this process. But at the same time, you have these super ultra amazing experts on request that can come in and supporting you with one-on-one support. So this is pretty much the core of the offering. On top of that, there are obviously, workshop where we discuss in general about, incentive design, and you might have an incentive design expert that is usually a token economist, but at the same time also the ideas coming from other startups, so they have already done it and they have done it right. That's also useful to see someone that nailed it. And also someone that didn't nail it. So at least he has some learnings, right? Some cuts, some scars from a war that didn't go that well. And the last part, let's say, of the offering that often is one of the most important is the fundraising, right? Because if we are the one, or more precisely, HyperNest, the investor company, not HyperNest, the accelerator, decided to invest, then obviously there is always a next step. In the next step, what do? You refine the materials, you refine the pitch, you refine the strategy, and then you create a beautiful data room, you refine the delivery, and then you make the intro, right? So that's also an important part of this whole package.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a big fan of accelerators. I've run one myself, Web3 as well, and worked in a few outside of Web3. So yeah, I love them. I love interacting with projects. I sense that you have that same energy about interacting with new ideas and new projects and helping founders, supporting them, and also I would imagine the satisfaction of seeing them flourish and hit these KPIs that you're talking about, hitting milestones, getting growth is I would say it's, for me, it was one of the most satisfying things in my career, right? Satisfying times. So you mentioned those three pillars. A lot of this, from my experience, a lot of the success of accelerators comes down to obviously luck in picking winners, and did those people apply to you? Is your research team going out and finding them in the right places? But obviously a lot of it comes down to you guys, huge amount in fact. So you mentioned top 1% of DeFi resources is what you offer. I'd love to know more about the mentors and the partners involved and the structure on this of the support that you offer, because it's a huge element of an accelerator.
Yeah. Well, I would say that before going to the partner, I guess the offering, the first support come from the core team, and in the core team there is me, that I've been working with startups for 8 years, basically launching 2 accelerators, collaborating in total with 120 startups that raised globally $266 million. So there was a kind of a lot of working with startups. That's been a little bit my life mission, and as you also said, that level of satisfaction that you get discovering that you are useful for someone that you usually have been on a problem 10 times longer than you know, and most of the time is much smarter than you know, maybe in the IQ level. And you discover that you are extremely useful for them. I think it's an emotion that it's priceless, right? On the other hand, Jan, our also accelerator director, has been in the space for last 6 years, worked with 100 more startups, was first unicorn B2B, supporting the first unicorn B2B in France for top 3 university in France, Telecom Paris. So therefore, you already start with someone that, say, it was not their first time that they went to market or the first time they launched a startup, right? So
Yeah.
that's already an advantage, because otherwise, you know, you don't get much. But then, other than that, what we have, thanks to the network, and maybe thanks also for being a little bit early in the game, we collected a lot of people that participated in our ecosystem, you know, and supported our ecosystem. So this can go through on the security level, as I was already starting. You can, for example, do consensus diligence, Zokyo, sorry, Haken, GetRecon. So all people that for them security is the bread and butter, right? We have external also auditors like Noah, Jelik. So all of them, you know, they support them on the security side. We have token economist expert like H. Risto from Findas. We have lawyers. They have also different professionalities and capabilities, because law is different. Yeah, it's fragmented. What we do every day in the crypto space is geographic arbitrage. So you need to have someone maybe super experienced in the US world that so far was please don't touch it, you know, to okay, what if I incorporate in the Cayman, you know, my foundation is in the Cayman, then the BBI is structured in this way, as long as you don't in the VASP. So we have 3-4 lawyers. They cover essentially all the different possibilities for geographic arbitrage, geographic not arbitrage. Marketing expert like Corina, that she was working at MakerDAO when it was called MakerDAO, then Venus, or Maria, ex MakerDAO, ex everything. She was working with Polygon and many other. Now she's working at Hype, so more on the marketing side. So what I'm saying is I'm describing it's a long list. It's like 55 people at this point in time that you can have actually on our website if you are interested to look at all of them. Or Wizo from BV Finance, now founder of CAP, also amazing protocol on the more stablecoin side, very innovative together also with Jonathan. So I would say that we have a real good amount of professionalities, and one of the differentiating factor of HyperNest that that was the differentiating factor that always will be, is that we only do one thing, right? We don't want to be expert of everything. Already being expert in DeFi real assets, it's already a lot, to be honest. So it's only on one thing. Also, our mentors are focused on one thing, and therefore it is much easier to generate, to create, you know, the most advanced program, and put together the most advanced expertise to support those founders.
Fantastic. And you say it's bespoke. Does that mean that projects are very flexible in what they do, and you guys will design this program for them, of course, but do you all start on the same date? And do you have a demo day? Do you follow a program month by month? Or is that where the flexibility comes in? Do you work on on subjects and topics for a bit longer on some teams and then try and catch up with others? How does that work?
Yeah.
And also, just to add into that, do you have social occasions as well online, as well with projects to feel camaraderie and part of a group?
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting question because actually we started very much old school. So we started having a more cohort-based structure. Let's say there is a moment of whatever X amount of weeks where we get all the applications. Then we do the screening. After the screening, we select the companies. After we select the companies, we start every day together. And this was obviously working, but we also decided to create a slightly more different system where we run the accelerator for 6 months and we repeat the program 2 times basically in the accelerator per se, and therefore we have a little bit more flexibility on the onboarding side. So we don't need to onboard everyone exactly the same day,
It's gone.
because if you are onboarded, the day of the token, the token week, or if you are onboarded the security week, doesn't matter. We moved a little bit from a 3 months program to a 6 months program, and we moved from being very strict about, okay, we recruit companies here, they get here, then for 3 months they have their program, to okay, we can actually have a little bit more wiggle room for when we get them on board, but then the program repeat 2 times. So therefore, it's still 3 months, but it's 3 months 2 times, right? Where if you start at the beginning of the 6 months, you can, for example, participate in the token economy week 2 times if you need it, or you can do it earlier if it's more useful for you, or later. So these create a little bit of more flexibility. But the other questions that you were asking me is like, how do you make them to gel and to bond, right? That's an important one. So what I found over time, over the years, as one super powerful mechanism, it's a mastermind. So mastermind are occasions where we pair together companies that we believe they are the most complementary, right? And essentially is a system of peer coaching with a certain level of moderation. So why this is important in this dynamic of gelling and connecting? Because if you meet, the other people, or at least once every 2 weeks, if not more, you're constantly discussing about your problems and you are asking for suggestions, receiving suggestions, and sometimes going also really toward more emotional thing, because entrepreneurship is not only a matter of contacting the right investors. Sometimes it's a matter of your own motivation. It's a matter of someone from your team left. You had a co-founder breakup, so it's a matter of sharing those emotions with others. And maybe you already had this type of experience. So this is an important part of how people get together. Plus, of course, we have many other celebrations that usually we do in Gather Town. The last one was, I believe, just 1 week ago, where everyone get there. The startups can talk with the startups, or with the mentors, with the investors, or whatever. It's free game, or they can go around and play with go-kart. I started to use it already a few years ago. We found out that it was interesting for people to design their costumes, having a purple, orange mustache, unicorn style mask, and get together in a way that it's joyful, I would say, and practical per se, because you can divide this system in rooms, right? And maybe the one room is only for marketing, one room is more for whatever, or one room is investors meeting startups, another one is mentors meeting startups, or free for all also. So yeah, I would say these are the the occasions where we get together, apart from, of course, the classical office hours where we are available for any type of request.
That's great. And how many projects do you take in a cohort?
We usually try to keep cohorts very small,
Okay.
so we are not a big fan of big cohorts.
Hmm.
Also because if you want to provide the very, very high quality
Hmm.
type of support, you cannot really have a lot of startups. So I would say the good cohort is of 7 startups. I would say with plus or minus 5, plus or minus 2 as interval of confidence, meaning that you can push it if you want to 9, if you want to, or you can also settle for 5. But I would rather settle for 5 than push it to 9.
Yeah. Okay.
You
And
know,
what's your acceptance rate?
is below 1%. So we have for a cohort of 7, usually we receive a little bit more than 700 startups. 760. The average is 768 startup.
Wow.
Um, and usually we try to get on board a little bit less than 1%, 1.5%, then depends a bit. The quality also depends, you know, not all the applications are created equal. Lately, we're getting a lot of high qualified inbound, which is very rewarding to see that, startups that are very, very high quality, they have a lot of possibilities, they really choose you. On the other hand, many of the people in our ecosystem are also referring us startups, including our startups. And this create, a multiple acquisition system, I would say, different deal flow coming to us. Where, of course, if we have one startup that really guarantee for another startup, obviously we take into consideration or a mentors or things change. Sometimes we've been working with a partner and then this partner launched his startup. So therefore, after years of collaboration with one partner, now he's the CEO of one startup. So it's also interesting how these things mutate, and evolve
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah. It sounds like you've got a really well-oiled machine. Obviously, you've got a huge amount of experience, not just yourself, but within your support team as well. Um, but one thing I do want to talk about is
Mhm.
capital, right? So DeFi founders today don't just need capital, but they also need liquidity, right? TVL
Yes.
and KOL attention. How does HyperNest help projects get real usage and liquidity and not just a round of funding and a few tweets?
Well, it's a very good question because all the startups, basically, I think all the startups we've been working with, they also need TVL, right? So this comes in it's, let's say, a multifaceted issue, all right? Or a multifaceted, let's call it challenge, that it sounds much better, right? So on one side is where do you get it, right? Sure. As we know, this is not, a surprise or a secret that there are a lot of backdoor deals that are done for TVL at the beginning. The question is not if you should be doing it. The question is, of course, you should be doing it. The answer is how you do it, because you don't want to see some TVL chart like, oh, like this. And I mean, everyone have one of those charts in his mind, right? So you can do backdoor deals. You should just creating it ideally with people that want to be aligned with your ecosystem. Ideally, there is not only mercenary capital coming in, coming out. Meaning that usually we connect our startups with liquidity brokers, several liquid fund, or simply whales. Ideally when there is a complementarity that is not only related to yield, right? So that you don't see these horrible charts. So what happened? The product will explode. No, just the incentive system stopped.
Yeah.
So I would say this network that we've been cultivating for 5 years at this point, It is one of the Swiss knife in our toolbox. But other than that, it's not only it's how you define your incentive system, right? So in the end of the day, you can have the best deals in the world, and even your incentive system is structured very, very, very nicely. But long term, you need to have product market fit. Otherwise, no one is going to save you. So I think the question about liquidity is a question about utility of your protocol to the rest of humanity. Because if your protocol is not useful, in the end of the day, you will just be able at best to have other people farm your incentives. And, incentives farmings, as we know, it's very, very short-lived, right? So you can have a crazy airdrop, KOL pumping, the point programs, everyone's super excited about it. But we all know that not always things turn super sweet when this is the only objective. So for me, the main question when we design liquidity incentives, and I've been doing it quite a lot in the last period, in the last years, the question is, but are you sure that your final customers is excited about your product? Because if you are sure about it, then let's talk to them first, right? Because that one will be the first one giving you the liquidity without even asking you too many, information or too many questions regarding the rewards, the APY, the unlocking of this liquidity or counter unlocking. So it's really like, do they need your product? If they need your product, we can still put a little bit of sweet because your product is new. You don't have Lindy effect. Okay, we have audits. Audits doesn't mean that it's 100% bulletproof. So in order to sweeten the deal, we can put some incentives, but these are the one you want to talk to first, the one that already want to use your product. And if there is no one want to use your product, well, maybe we have a problem though. And it's not a problem of liquidity, it's a problem of product market fit and how you have been building your service.
I totally agree. These are the underlying points that can prove value. Look, you've worked with 100+ startups already. Okay, when you look back, what patterns do you see in the teams that succeed after the program versus the ones that, say, struggled? Is it a product thing? Is it timing? Is it team? Is it something else?
Well, there are a lot of factors that play in they have an important impact, right? There is market, there is marketing, there are trends, there is FTX collapse. There is a lot of things that can have an impact. But I will not say that this one is the most important part. Actually, it play a role in particular in the Web3 space. Often we were used to say sometimes it's better to be first than to be right? But I think that the more our system evolve, the more we go back to basics. And when you go back to basics, meaning that you are investing in supporting very early stage company, you are dealing with pre-seed people. Pre-seed people are people that usually have an idea, maybe some smart contract on testnet, and a lot of dreams of how this thing will work. Yeah, the reality is that the majority of the time it doesn't work the way you imagine it, and it will potentially will never work. But sometime you will make it work, right? And this will make it work is related to your team. In our standardized assessment, and this is probably the most common answer you will get to this question. But then now, to give you a little bit more flavor to that, in our standardized assessment, the weight for the team per se is higher than 30%. So the team alone, can basically be more than 1/3 of our whole score. Because if the team is ultra valuable, have an hedge, as the only one that have been working, whatever, in the JP Morgan tokenization equity in the Onyx program, I think it was called Onyx. You have an edge, you have been in the space, ideally you had previous experience. You're not losing your virginity at this point, but you've been navigating the up and down of being an entrepreneur several times. That's what really matter. Including the connection that you have in the space, the way you are able to discuss with people, put yourself in front of whatever, a camera or an investor. These are all elements that are more important than anything, because if I tell you that we invested in a privacy oriented company and today it's a stable coin, you will like, what the hell? Yes, that's also what I said. But we're also happy, that there was this transition. The project didn't die. Actually, it's thriving. I'm not gonna say the name, but it's thriving. And we're so satisfied to be close to this team along this all up and down. And that's what usually you do as a consultant, strategist, advisor, accelerator, whatever you want to call it, someone helping you, just navigating the up and down on this market. Objectively, it was not a great idea to launch a very, very strongly focused privacy oriented protocol 2 years ago. It would have been perfect now. Irony, the irony, right, of the world. But the feedback from the investor were brutal. So it was the time of Tornado Cash. I'd say, okay, I will never touch these things. I don't want to go in jail. La la la. It's impossible. And when we started to discuss with them, I was like, well, I understand your perspective. Let's change it. Let's focus on something else. Therefore, team is the most important asset, and not only a team, but a team that is determined to bring something to market, bringing something to life, and they will never give up, over time.
Wow. You speak with real passion there. I can tell that you don't leave a leaf unturned when you're talking with your projects. And using that pivot as a great example, I think everyone has that moment where they built that MVP or that prototype during a time when that trend hadn't taken off yet, and you're left with no choice but to pivot. You're not going to let your project die. We're all fighters. We sort of thrive on the fear of failing at the end of the day. So look, a success story came out of it. Had they stayed in privacy maybe and managed to get to this point, maybe they'd be raising now. But you look back at those learnings and you just have to do what's right at the time, don't you?
Yeah,
So,
you adapt, in a way how the market change, the condition change, you get new opportunities, you get new obstacles, you adapt, and you help this entrepreneur, young and more mature entrepreneur, to adapt with the opportunities and the ever-changing environment of Web3. So you're an enabler in the end.
Exactly. And it's very ever-changing, right? Very quickly and ever-changing all the time. But look, Alessio, it's been great having you on. Where can listeners, builders, makers, where can they find you? Where can they apply? What do they need to do to prepare? What gives them their best chances?
Well, one thing that I didn't say that I would like to specify before we are closing is that there is a big change in also how HyperNest is operating, and in the near future there will be. It is the first time that I say that that HyperNest will also launch its own companies for the first time. Therefore, moving a little bit our focus on not only on accelerating startups and helping startups, we're launching our own startups, and this is because we build so many connections. We are in touch with so many incredible team that are talented, so many incredible tech team that are ultra talented, and soon we'll be launching our own startups. Therefore, there will be different way of working together with us. To answer your questions, they can be more part of supported by HyperNest, or it can be HyperNest themselves. They can basically work together with us, and we can provide not only say an acceleration service, but really be part of their company, and we build it together. We bring it to market together. So that's a big news that we're still propagating slowly and steady. Probably is the first time that we say completely publicly. but we're very, very excited for that. It's very excited to have a baby after being rocking an enormous amount of those. Yeah, if anyone interested in us or collaborating with us in any form, they can go to our website, to hypernest.xyz. They will find their Twitter. We are very active on Twitter and on LinkedIn, or they can connect with me on Twitter too, at Alessio Zazza. So I will be there. I'm also pretty active there, and I'm always happy, to exchange a few words regarding your company or providing you my 2 cents about what you're building or the direction you're taking or the go-to-market strategies you're putting in place or the token economy and so on and so forth.
Excellent. Look, we always finish with this question. Every guest receives this. It's a bit of a game. As of today, the total TVL of DeFi, as per DeFi Llama, is $118 billion. What's your prediction for this number at midnight on the 31st of December, 2025? So it's only about 2 weeks away.
All right. So first of all, it's impossible for me to guess, but I will try, of course. I am a perma bull, therefore I always gonna bet up. I would say if it's 118, well, let's give them at least a 130, something like that, So a little bit of a boost in it. What I can tell you, I will give you a prediction about December 31st, 2017. No, 2027, sorry. 2027. 2017 was easy, right? 2027, I would say that in that case, in Ethereum and EVM compatible world, or in general, if we want to be agnostic, we will be crossing for sure $1 trillion. This is a bet that I will take it.
So in 2 years from now,
In the end of
2026, 2027, end of 2027.
12 months from now. 12 months from now,
12 months from now.
we'll be crossing 1 trillion. That would be my
Okay,
bet.
so you've just placed your bet for the TVL DeFi game for 2026 as well. Okay, so your first contender for the 2026 game, which is going to be the TVL as per DeFi Llama for midnight on the 31st of December 2026, right? So in 12 months time. So you're going 1 trillion.
Yeah.
Nice. So 130 billion for 2025 and 1 trillion. 1 trillion.
1
sure?
trillion.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that. Permable.
Permable. I mean, I put my mouth where my money are. So I've been betting on the interconnection between real world assets and tokenization, right? So for a very long time. I mean, at the beginning, when I say that in 2017, I was just a fool. 2 years ago, when we started to invest in tokenization of stocks, we were still crazy and fools. As of today, we look a little bit less of a fool, maybe someone that got something right, And therefore, 1 trillion for me is completely possible.
We're all supporting you here because we all want this as well. Big claim, and thank you very much. It's a great game. We'll have more contenders joining the 2026 round, which we'll share with you later. Look, Alessio, it's been great. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you again at one of these conferences, hopefully soon. It was great to actually catch up with you before this podcast and during as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Edward. It was lovely being part of this.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Bye-bye.